like to introduce our first session in the broilers section, and it will be presented by Sunoh Che from the University of Guelph, and it is characterization of dorsal recumbency syndrome associated with woody breast and broiler flocks from Ontario, Canada. Sunoh, if you can share your screen, you can present.
Okay, Brenda, thank you for your nice introduction. And I'm so happy to share my research with all of you. And my research topic is characterization of dorsal recumbency syndrome associated with woody breast in broiler flocks from Ontario, Canada. So I'm Sunoh Che, and I'm in pathobiology department at OBC, University of Guelph, and I work with doctors Leonardo Sosta and Shai Babot. And why we choose this topic? Because dorsal recumbency syndrome, DRS, has been recently described in market-age commercial broiler chickens. So, for example, in 2018, my advisor, Dr. Babut, he got a phone call from poultry producers. Hey, we have turtle chicken. Do you have any idea about that? And at that time, we didn't know anything about that. And when we searched the website and some references, we found that Gail and colleagues from North Carolina State University, they call that turtle chicken as dorsal recumbency syndrome. So what are those chickens? Those chickens fall onto their backs and unable to right themselves, and also described as turtle chicken. So if you see those pictures, so this is the picture of control broilers. So we can see that wings can meet, but the DRS broilers, it is hard to lift their wings, so it's only possible to lift to 45 degrees. So there is something wrong with their wings. And when we see their shoulder joint, there are a lot of missing feathers. So we can see that they have some multiple cases of DRS chickens. And these broilers can eventually die on the farm and can represent a significant economic loss. And some people argue that breast myopathy, such as woody breast, you can see woody breast from this figure, so can maybe associated with this syndrome due to impaired wing movement, because when they fall onto their backs, if they want to stand up, they have to move wings, but they are not able to do that. And because of their unique respiratory system, they die because of respiratory failure. So we wanted to characterize the DRS and investigate association between woody breast and DRS. So to pursue our objectives, we collected samples from 3 different commercial broiler farms over 4 visits from 2020 to 2021. And we collected 64 broilers, and those broilers were all loss 708 and 33 DRS broilers and 31 normal broilers. And we recorded clinical signs and scored breast muscle scores. And we collected serums and euthanized the broilers for postmortem analysis. And it was important to establish inclusion criteria. So we thought that if the broilers were found alive and fall onto their backs and unable to right themselves, we put those broilers in DRS category. And control broilers, they don't have such signs. And we didn't include dead broilers. And for the post-mortem exam, we scored P major for macroscopic evidence of woody breast, and hearts were examined and scored for the presence of hydropericardium and right ventricular distension. And we did histology from P major and lung, and we were interested in serum enzyme, AST and CK, the aspartate aminotransferase and creatine kinase, because those enzymes are muscle leakage enzymes and they show the biodegeneration of muscles. And for the statistical analysis, we used the student t-test when we compare 2 groups of biochemical analytes, and we used the Wilcoxon rank sum test for histology score. And I used the Spearman's correlation test to see the correlation among variables. And finally, we built multiple logistic regression models. And this is the result of our post-mortem exam. So we measured the live weight and P major weight and calculated the ratio of P major weight over live weight. And when we compare the DRS and control groups, unfortunately, there's no statistical difference. And we believe that is because we do not have a lot of samples. So for example, if we have 4,000 samples, we may see the statistical difference between live weight and P major weight, but from our 40 samples, we couldn't see that. And for the mild hydropericardium, you can see this fluid near the heart. This is the mild hydropericardium, and the right ventricle distension. There's no statistical difference. Our first hypothesis was there might be that the changes in heart in DRS broilers, but we couldn't see that. So we assume that this is incidental findings. And we scored the histological changes based on our previous grading scheme. So we measured myodegeneration, perivascular infiltration, and lipidosis fibrosis. So this panel A shows the muscle fibers from normal place. So we can see the nice polygonal muscle fibers surrounded by endomysium, and those muscle fibers are surrounded by perimysium. But affected place, in this muscle fiber, we can see vacuole changes, and the size of muscle fibers are different. So this is very small and very pink. And in panel C, we can see the accumulation of inflammatory cells. And in panel D, there are a lot of fibrous tissue here and the lipid droplet. So we can see that there are the DRS broilers show the statistically higher histological scores. But when we score the lung histologically, there's no differences. And we compared the concentration of AST and CK. And as you can see from those panels, the DRS broilers, they had higher concentrations of AST and CK, and this shows the muscle leakage. And we had 12 variables from DRS and control broilers, such as the presence and absence of hydropericardium and histology score, and the histology score of P major, and the binary outcome of DRS and woody breast, and the serum chemistry, the CK and AST, and live weight and the ratio of P major weight over P live weight and age like that. So we see the correlation, and in this plot, the X in the box showed that they are not correlated, and the red color shows that they are strongly correlated. So we can see that DRS, woody breast, CK, and AST, there was strong correlation. And with those 12 variables, we built logistic regression models. First, we built univariable regression models, and we found that 4 variables, histology score, woody breast score, and AST CK concentrations were significant. And we did stepwise variable selection, and according to our final model, those 4 variables were selected, and only histology of score of P major is a good predictor for DRS, that turtle chicken or dorsal recumbency syndrome. And what does mean that when we see 1 unit increase of histology score of P major, the odds of seeing the dorsal recumbent broilers are 37% times higher. So I will talk about our studies and what are my take-home messages. So I want you to remember my take-home messages. So diagnosis of DRS is associated with gross and microscopic features of woody breast, and the DRS is also associated with serum indicators of muscular damages, and the histological score of P major is strongly correlated with diagnosis of DRS, and woody breast may predispose broiler to DRS and negatively impact the welfare of broilers. And we wish we could conduct further studies, so because we need a large number of broilers, and DRS, we strongly believe that DRS can cost industry a substantial amount of money. And we wish we could document the prevalence of DRS in the future. So this is the end of my study, and I want to express my deepest thanks to our industry partner, Poultry Veterinary Service, and Sunoh members, and Sunoh students, and our funding agency, OMAPRA, and people from library and different universities, different colleges. And if you have any questions now or in the future, you can email me to ches@uguelph.ca.
That's great, Sunoh. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Just a reminder to everyone, if you have any questions for Sunoh, to put them in the Q&A box, and I will make sure I'll try to make sure we answer all the questions. There aren't any there right now, but I have some questions, Sunoh.
Yeah.
So this was a field study, and I've done some field research in the past, and it certainly presents some unique challenges, I think might be a good way of saying that. So what are some of the challenges that you found as you were trying to go through this study?
Yes, so we started this study from early 2020, and you know that COVID occurred, so it was really hard to find, it was really hard to visit farms, and so we waited several more months, and we visited another farm, and we collected samples, and we were happy that, wow, we can do prevalence study, or we can collect more samples. But this year, highly pathogenic avian influenza, wow.
If it's not one thing, it's another, right?
Right, yeah, and even the in Guelph, several farms are under quarantine, under strict measures, so we are not able to visit farms. So hopefully those things can settle down, then we can resume our work.
So I think you may have said it, and my memory is short. How many, like you said you wanted to get, you expand the numbers of birds that you're looking at. Like how many do you hope to, like, is it number of farms? Is it number of birds?
Yeah, so it should be number of farms, because if we go to a farm, it is hard to predict how many broilers are affected because there's no baseline study. So
I see.
From farm A, we found 8 broilers, and from farm B, we found 10 broilers like that. So our ambitious plan is to visit at least 20 farms in the future.
Oh, wow. As someone who's traveled to find, that's a lot of that's a lot of just on its own. I'm wondering if you have any video of, like, when you're in the barn and you, like you said, you find the birds that have DRS. You have specific, like, did you collect any video of what the bird actually looks like? Do you actually witness them falling over, or do you just see them when they've already fallen?
Yeah, so unfortunately, we didn't have any video, but in the future, I will try. And when we go to the barn, there are 20,000 birds, but some broilers, they fall onto their backs, so we pick those
you go and you grab them, right?
Yeah.
Gathering video in a barn, I will freely admit, is not the easiest thing in the world. Now,
right.
I tried it 10 years ago, but I mean, what I can do with my iPhone these days is quite impressive. I think it would be, if I'm offering advice, I think it would be a really interesting thing to add to future presentations so people can actually see what that looks like. But I appreciated all your photos. It looks like we're coming to the end of the time. So thank you very much, Sunoh. Very interesting work. And I look forward to hearing more about it in the future.